It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and those that have had the most significant improvement in the last week. Gary Glover has been through both lists of top 30 to pull out the ones that we can learn from, the trading opportunities, and the charts that we really want to break down and assess. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris.
This week, you're coming fresh off the flight from Adelaide. You had a great Australian Technical Analysts Association meeting, which went really well. You covered that content, and hopefully we're going to get a insight into that next week. So,
we'll try and redo that presentation there online and maybe send it out next week sometime. But no, that was nice. Quite a nice little group there in Adelaide, and I guess it's good for trading can be a lonely game. So having some of the traders around, talk to, discuss it there. I know sort of Adelaide crew there, everyone seemed to be traded a little bit differently, right? A little pocket, which is great. But it's always nice to have someone to talk to about trading. So it can be a bit lonely there. So it's always nice to have fellow traders there to sort of share some stories with as well and sort of learn and grow. And a few older guys in the group there, but that just goes to show that you're all there to keep learning. So I think I was really I thought it was a nice little group actually, and just to show us traders there we are all trying to keep improving, kind of learning and get better at trading. That's the beauty of it, really. So it sort of keeps you on your toes, and we've all got to keep moving forward here, and that's the beauty of trading, is that we're all trying to get better.
Well, I know you just shared with me before recording an insider gem that you took away from it, and I was getting all excited about how we can change calculations and test this and test that based on the 30-30 list of what we got and this new insight you had. So, I didn't even go, and I got the benefit of a gem that you brought out of it. So, exactly that. It's sort of sharing that. It can be a lonely game, but having somebody else to talk to bounce ideas off and to share the stories with, to help you reflect, which I guess is partly why we're so grateful for you doing this on Fridays, is that you're not only sharing with us what you're seeing in the markets right now, but also what you've learned from it and how you've learned from the market and how you apply those lessons to help you analyze what you're doing. And to that point, we might just jump in and say, okay, cool, we've got the top 30 momentum over the last quarter. When you look at these 30 companies, what are you looking at? What's standing out to you, and what are you going to teach us?
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a mix there, particularly in the 30 momentum there. So obviously the strongest stocks for the quarter there. So there is a lot of small names in there, Chris. So it does make it hard to sort of trade small. So me personally, I have some rules around what sort of size company I want to trade, and also what size share I want to trade. So some of these are outside my rule base, but you still see even some of these sort of small ones really do just take off in electric sort of fashion there. They still sort of make the classic patterns there as well. So like the number on the list there, what AGC there, you can see here that this thing, stayed pretty tight the whole lot since on this high here. And there really wasn't, I know there wasn't much in here, but this thing just sort of stayed tight the whole time there. And then eventually it does break out here. And you probably get a bit of it. That would have been one of the heavier days apart from that one big up there. And that was sort of the breakout for that setup there. It did have a little bit of a breakout there, and then it has the classic little Dave Ryan, that little tight congestion, and then it pops up again. So even just waiting for that little watching the breakout there, we'd have seen some volume, little tightness there, and coming in there. There's those sort of classic patterns there, and obviously it had some big moves there, but look, pretty hard to catch those. But they still all the ones that do move big do have that sort of follow that classic sort of setup there. I think number 2 on the list, another small one as well. But there was, some big volume sort of coming through here.
It was on the list for over a month or so, hasn't it?
Yeah. So all those are sort of small price there. So I personally wouldn't trade this because it doesn't fit my rules. Still saw some, good volume out of the blocks here. Pull back in here. The whole thing is sort of set up again. You can see the VCP in there as well. So it did run up here, and then look, what did you see there? 3-4 days.
Talking about.
Yeah, little compression there. See, that's like little David Ryan looking for that little, tight price action, sitting under the high, and then breaking out there. So whether it's a small stock or big stock, this is what David Ryan's looking for. and then it punches through. So yeah, VCP, it's all the same cup in hand. It's all the sort of same sort of style setups there. Just happens on different stocks and smaller ones, and it's obviously run since then. But again, they are hard to find amongst the smaller ones. You really got to sort of know ones as well. Then this was number 3 on the list. So a little bit, this is probably a little bit more rockier there. Had probably a bigger pullback there, which probably makes it less attractive. You'd like to sort of see it hold up higher there, but eventually did break a little bit of a B wave there and stay here in particular there. And that was a big volume breakout as well. So basically breaking above the high then. So even if you're just looking at some of these smaller names there, you won't be touching these things until you get a little B wave break here. I guess you got to be sort of following these sort of company fortunes with it. So those ones are hard to sort of catch, just because they're not that liquid and some sort of smaller names there. Number 7, pretty similar. You see that really tight BCP, another small name, and then it does break through. I think RDN. This one's probably a little bit less, starts to sort of build. You get the little tight price action here. Still on a pretty downtrend there, so you really want to be breaking above a swing high before you're coming in here. Again, too small for me, but when then it started climbing, so it's sort of impulsive, and then you get this little corrective tightening, impulsive there. So those are the type of things you're looking for. You just like to see a little bit more liquidity there. MMC was one that we sort of spoke about last week or two, Chris. We talked about this. We did trade up into this high here, and we did see a BCP setting up there a couple of weeks ago. The most interesting thing there is we saw some big volume drive up into this high here, and then after the high, pulled back here. What happened was there was no volume on the selling, so that's a good sign. And then you see the little, it bounces again, the volume comes in, a little bit more, has the first day down, no selling as well. So the whole thing's tightening up here. And we see a bit of volume there off the low here. So we're now starting to see strong impulsive trend, strong volume, starts to tighten up, and then we break out here as well. So even just waiting for a little B wave break here, like a little pivot point, that's breaking 54 cents or something there. So, even if you're buying this at say 55 cents here, we're now 55 to 75. So it's gone a fair margin there. So this is sort of thing you don't want to be rushing into these things here, trying to buy them too early here. You got to wait for that confirmation strength and to be sort of shown here. But this would have been, a little volume on that, pretty big. So by the time it broke through 55 cents, he would have had probably one of the biggest volume days, or in the first hour or two would have been big volume there. So we're getting confirmation that this is looking pretty good here. So maybe you could have got a bit sneaky here and got slightly earlier, but this is what we're looking for: strong move, strong volume, a pause, consolidation, and then top there. That's the classic sort of stuff there. So MMC,
flag, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So it's they're all the same there. So obviously, in Adelaide, they were sort of talking about Minervini, David Ryan, Dan Zanger, William O'Neill, Christian Kalamagi. They're all got variations in their style, but they're essentially all looking at very, very similar things. Stronger stocks, leaders, strength, looking for the pause, looking for the tightening up and popping out there. So they're all sort of slight variations of the same thing here. But the other one on the list there, which I did cover in my report actually, 1 or 2 weeks, I might have been 2 weeks ago, was VUL there, because we sort of had this VCP sort of pattern here. So we had this sort of strong surge here. So again, good volume and surge. Pullback here, the volume definitely dried up into the pullback. We saw another surge back up to the high and good volume. Pullback here, volume dried up a little bit. Next rally there, volume was not bad, not killer volume, but then tightened up again. Yeah. So therefore you've got
you covered it on the 30th of April. I'm looking back at your reports. So that's where.
Yeah, so we're just sort of seeing that, 1, 2, 3 consolidations there, and those sort of 3 days there, pulling back here, that's your sort of VCP, sort of your third pullback there, and then once we're up here, this first day up here, we saw the volume come in. That's a good sign here that you basically, this is really sort of what this might be a pivot day, 1-2 days down here. Within 1 day, you've gone to a new high. So it's sort of pulled back 2 to 3 days, within 1 day, we're at a new high. So it's struggling to go down here. Whole thing is congesting under the low here. And then, of course, the VCP breaks out. 360, we're looking at probably, I think I mentioned at the time, they had 250 to 360 is 90 cents. So looking for a 450 type of target there, and we've already reeled that in. So, you might have traded some into maybe 3 or 5 day heat. You scaled up. You might have traded some out at the target 450, and maybe you've kept a little pass along with a trailing 10-day moving average. So that's what the pros will be doing. That's what we get to learn to sort of try and do as well. So, so this stage here, this is pretty bullish, pretty strong here. Got to sell some into heat. Those are the rules. Got to move our break even up as well as it moves up here. And because this is really probably taking off here, Chris, as well, the 20 day is probably a long way back. So we probably need to tighten up to at least that sort of 10 day. So, we shouldn't be going home here under, at the moment here, 409 or something. It keeps going up here. Maybe this will get to 440, 450 or something. So it gets to our 450 target there, then you've at least locked the last parcel in there at 450 then. Other stock on there is, I think WA1, I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, this has been a bit of a leader here for a while, Chris. It's sort of been in and out of the report. It just showed that sort of strength there. So it's come back to the 50 a few times there. Has sort of flirted with the 50, held it up at the first time. Come back here, sort of just slightly broke it there. Had a couple of retests of the 50 again. So did break through it on this day there, which that probably would have, if I was in this, that would have had me out. But then the next day, what happens is bang, we're straight back in there. So can go up there. So what if it did knock you out, you're trading this there. What I'll be looking for is to a reconfirmation for me would be, those sort of leading names there. If you just wait for the first lower high to be broken, because oftentimes they can go in the corrective pattern, and it might last a bit longer than you think. If you keep trying to buy each low, you might be stuck in there for months. So we don't want to be sort of stuck in there. Time is money, so we just really want to be sort of in the trades when they're moving. We don't want to be sort of sitting around for a month or two waiting for them to sort of go high as well. So usually when they break through that little swing high there, it's breaking above 13.10. So you might be buying this at 13.11, 13.12 up to the limit. Give yourself a limit, a couple of cents, so you get hit. And then obviously if you bought it at say 13.15 here or something, it's still a pretty nice trade. You've reset yourself again here and gone up there. So again, it's like we're talking about these stronger stocks. They're using the 10 or 20. So these ones here that's moved up here to 10. So this would probably have you knock you out here. You're waiting for the B wave break. You probably come in almost around the same spot again, maybe slightly higher. But again, you're getting knocked out on the 10 again here, and then just waiting for a reset there. You might have got reset back in here, knocked out here again. So just some basic rules, some of the leaders there will sort of get you in and out of those trades there. And look, sometimes you might only get mild moves. Other times you can get, look, this move here, this has been incredible move up for this B wave here. So, following those leading names, the strongest names on the board there, as we know, Chris, they just continue to sort of stay on the board there for week after week after week. So I know our sort of friends in Adelaide have sort of got a mechanical system there that they've been working on, and had some pretty good results for the first couple of months. So pretty big returns there. I know they can have big drawdowns when the market turns down here, but there's a lot to be said for these leading names. They tend to stay strong and keep trending up here and moving higher for a lot longer than you think there. So, the key there is to sort of have a good entry and then have a good exit as well. I think exit is probably the hardest thing to do, but on the trading side there. Identifying a good exit rule and stuff. That's why I like William O'Neill. He's got the 50-day moving averages as the ultimate. If it breaks below the 50, he's definitely 100% out. if the market broke below 50, he's got to reduce positions. So there's some pretty clear guidelines there. And then I know Kalamagi, he looks at the 10 and the 20-day moving average. If he's trading the strongest names, like this WA1 here, breaks the 10-day moving average, he's out. If it's a sort of a mild moving stock, breaks the 20, he's out. So there's some clear parameters, clear rules there that the best trader use.
I think it was Vulcan you were talking about. That sounded like a great way to approach that with your different staggering out, but different. So that one's well worth saving and coming back to for sure to recap on it. I like that.
Yeah. Like it's sort of like it's you've got to write yourself some rules. I mean, I'm just trying to mimic the best traders in the world, Chris. So what they've done successfully year after year, making triple-digit returns. There's a method. There's a shared rhythm and process, and I mean they're looking at the strongest stocks on the board. That's definitely the shared process there. They're looking at the leaders as well. It's sort of trading the bigger, sort of stronger names there. And they're waiting for those consolidations, waiting for the price to tighten up, and then break out there. So it's a low risk sort of trade. So and then high reward moves there. So the risk reward's nice and strong. And then how they trade them as well is very similar. They really try and scale up big position. They never buy, never average down, always averaging up. So basically scaling up. And if they get a bit of heat, they'll take some off. What that does is a little bit of profit in, move yourself to break even, get a free carry on the rest. You can lighten up, and you can just let the thing run. Then once you've sort of sold some into that sort of 3 to 5 day heat as in nice move in your direction, take a little bit off here, then let the rest sort of ride here, and then sort of follow your guidelines as well. So whether you have a technical target, I often have targets, or whether you're using a sliding moving average there, but whatever you use, just got to use the same thing over and over again. You got to sort of follow your methodology, you got to keep reviewing your methodology and make sure it keeps working there. But AUE was another one that I thought was pretty interesting here, Chris. Was just a bit of a cup and handle here. Also, shows some strength here, a little bit of a smaller sort of name here, but has sort of pulled back here. On this pullback there, pretty light volume all the way through here. Started to see a bit of volume come through on this sort of shoulder here. Hold nice and tight there. And then we definitely saw a nice big block of volume in here. There's the sort of things that do sort of catch your eye. You can see that big volume. And again, it's gone back up to the high here. So it's gone back up to this sort of 32 cent level and then pull back in a nice tight manner. So look through here after that big block of volume, pull back here, and there's just no selling at all. No volume. So no one's getting out of the stock here. And even here, nice and tight here as well. We get 1 day up here. We break through the top here on good volume. It's a pretty good setup. So even some of the smaller, this is probably just fits into my filters. And then, that's a nice sort of setup there. So this is definitely one to keep an eye on here because it's been trending up for quite a while now. We're starting to see more liquidity come into the stock, which makes it safer to trade as well. And you're starting to sort of trend here, just high loads. It's nice and so it's looking definitely one to sort of add on a radar. They kind of reminds me of a little bit of that Nuix, which we spoke about previously, how we had that, go back to retest the high here. Even though in the old days the false break would have scared me, but now I know that stronger stocks, some of them will just we'll go back to retest the high and then ingest under. Some of them can go marginally higher just to throw you out. But then what you're monitoring is here. The key with all of these here is that once they've actually run up there, if you saw some good volume through here, then we saw some good volume here again up into the high. And then we saw pretty light volume on the pullbacks. And then once it goes to retest the high again, how it reacts off the high is what you're looking for. So we'll still, see here, there's just no aggressive selling coming in here. We get a little A, B, C, a little Elliott wave, and then it starts to climb again. And it starts to climb again, you're seeing volume start to come in. So the volume starts to increase here, pulls back here, and then look at this here, 1, 2, 3, we go through the B wave here on some much bigger volume here. So even just wait for that little pause there, so it's at 214, so say you're buying 215, 216 here, stop back in the last swing high or something. It's, it's just not showing not showing that weakness. They're staying nice and tight here. Nice sort of cup and handle here. So it's a classic pattern there. So that's the William O'Neill pattern. He's looking at there. So I'm sort of down the bottom of the range there. Chalice Mining is sort of one that I did sort of see there. There was a bit of a VCP set up in here, Chris. Little cup and handle here. I noticed here that we had the sort of low. I think it was basically on low in here. Might have been. I might actually just drill in a little bit closer there. But there was like a 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern here, Chris.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to see a bit of volume there moving up, pulling back here. Not too much volume to pull back there. Some better volumes here lined up. The only volume that came in was probably on the lows there. It was pretty light up until that. But we're starting to, sometimes you get your little A, B, C, and then the whole thing can roll over. That's why that's the beauty of the 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern. That's the thesis really behind it, is that most sort of little counter trends will be 3 ways, and then they roll off. If this basically sets up a third high low, then this is not like an ABC. This is starting to build here, and maybe a change in character. And then once you start to kick up here, so we're starting to see some better volumes in here, Chris, as well. So I mentioned this one's probably not one I would trade there, just because of the overhead. Yeah, so much overhead, so many losers to fight through. It's going to be hard to really kick on big gains, but so far this is looking pretty constructive. We've sort of got a new high here. Now we've got a second new high. So those are actually kind of positive signs. And there is a fair volume down here as well. So this has got a chance to do it right there. Don't know if it'll get my money, but very constructed as well. So that's pretty solid there. What else is on there? BC8. It was BC8. So just had this one as a bit of a watch here, just because we've sort of gone back up to retest the high here. Nice little tight consolidation sort of under the high and then push through here. What sort of caught my eye is this chunky volume. So I've gone through here. So this might be a bit of a change of character as well. So definitely one to sort of put on the radar, keep an eye on. That was probably the ones I think Misha Blast did sort of sort of one that I was a bit wary of up here. Has held on here. I think it sort of hasn't got any higher, but it has. Yeah. But saying that now, I mean, this is sort of just pulled back here now, Chris. But the volume is actually not that aggressive, and has held above the last swing high here. So this is probably looking a little bit better than it looked last week for me. Just because there was some good volume on the second drive. It has pulled back there, although I think the announcement's a little thin in its structure. Markets got excited here, but price action is constructed there. That's not too aggressive there. So you almost like to see this. This came back, sat on top of that high. Volume really lightened off here in the last couple of days there, and then it had a little pivot day on good volume there. Might be one to look at and follow there. Couple of the names, that sort of bigger names that we did all right was, I think we talked about ALQ, big VCP in there, Chris, as well. Has broken out of that. I think Ansell had a bit of a VCP as well, some bigger names, making those little, 1, 2, 3, and then broken through there. I think Rio might have even, so Rio's nice and tight here as well. So interesting sort of setup there. So even some of the, the VCPs do set up in some of the bigger names time to time as well. One stock I did see there, which was a little David Ryan signal there, Chris, was see how 80 minutes been nice and solid. It's gone back to retest the high. Look at that tight consolidation there.
Right. It's like a greenside day, is it?
Yeah. So you got 1, 2, 3 nice and tight, or almost 4 really tight days there, low volume as well. So the whole thing's just tightened up here. That's David Ryan's signature move there, is looking for that, go back and retest the high, 3 or 4 days tight on its side under the high, and then break through here. So he would have been buying that move up here. So it would open at 629, close at 655 here. So yeah, that's the sort of thing he looks for. So just, some sort of classic sort of stuff in there. No, so that's our momentum there. So looking at the weeklies there, if there's anything sort of specific in here, Chris, that sort of jumped out there, probably a bit of a mix of sectors through here. There wasn't really one sector or two sectors that sort of jumped out to me. There was a bit of a kind of a mix of all of maybe the stronger sectors at the moment, sort of moving there. And those are there anything that, from a sector point of view, that you noticed there?
Well, it's a bit, I think you sort of noted that there's a lot of small caps in the momentum in the last quarter. And what we've seen in the last couple of years is when we do have a strong rally like we did have yesterday to yesterday afternoon, it can sort of blow the thematics out a little bit when you have a really short, sharp move in the market. So that's been typical for the last couple of years. When you have that explosive movement, you can have sort of what we've sometimes called before the beta wave, where you just have more speed, less tact, more money thrown into the market very quickly. And that can actually distort the thematics that we like to pull out of it. So it's a long way of saying I didn't see a strong one in there.
Yeah.
Or the names that we did see ranking higher weren't really fit with the rest of the market movement.
Yeah. And what's history tell us about when we're getting some of those smaller names coming in into particularly the launch pad or coming in late there? What's history tell us about that?
Well, I think you've noted, and over the last couple of years, the viewers may have noted this too, is that it can be getting a bit long in the tooth. And what you've said many times is sort of, especially going back to these October lows, anyone who wants to go back and watch your videos before that time, late September, phenomenal videos. You're talking about those that are leading, the relative strength, the ones that you're looking for, you're expecting a turn. As those leaders run, they start to drag in with it sort of the larger cap names, and you get that beta drive for the first 7-10 days often. And then as that starts to peter off, that's where you're really coming into your strength and going, look, I'm finding these leaders. Here are the themes that I saw leading. Here are the stocks that were having higher bases and higher lows, and the market was making fresh lows. And then you're looking at those other sister companies and themes, and you've done very well with that. So I'm guessing a long answer to your question, when we're seeing these smaller caps and we're knowing your Tuesday videos, this could be a choppy period ahead. Is that kind of...
Yeah, we sort of know that obviously that, we generally start with the bigger caps, when the market takes off, and then we filter through to the mid caps when we've been running. And then once the small caps sort of coming on board, then we usually know we've been running for a while, sort of maybe getting towards the tail end of the move here. So it's interesting there because we talked about the cycle this year has sort of gone against a lot of the normal fourth year and election year cycles. The one that it actually is the closest to is the 60-year cycle. And we talk about the 60-year cycle, how that actual cycle there, it actually expanded through this period. So it actually did like an expanding sort of top. So
volatility is getting higher.
So I think it ran through to March, April, pulled back something like 8%, expanded to a marginal new high, dropped back slightly larger, maybe even like 10%, again expanded to a marginal new high again, and then dropped maybe something like 13-14%. And then that was the low sort of in this midterm year, or not midterm year, in the mid-year. And then the rest of the second half of the year was firm again. So we got this sort of corrective process through here, but because the market was sort of strong there, it kept making new highs each time, but it did sort of expand. So we've been saying here the last couple of weeks, I was expecting the market to make another sort of sidewaysy sort of channel here, but we did catch the first short that I was waiting to get another, waiting for a B wave, something a bit weak, low volume there, but we never saw that. We've actually seen quite robust volumes there. Now we've got a new highs here. So I'm like, oh, Jeff, is this going to be another 60-year type of behavior here where we sort of go slightly higher and then start to fade and then roll off and then go again slightly higher? So could possibly, but yeah, I mean, the volumes have been a bit more robust in the market there, so they're starting to see a bit in the smalls there. So, but yeah, I suspect it's going to be still think it's going to be a trader's market there, Chris, as well. That's the beauty for us technical guys, is that definitely seeing, be patient there, wait for the right sectors there, definitely sort of still setting up here. SSR was number one on the list there. So this is sort of recovering. Silver stock there had some issues there. Had some, I think it was, I don't remember what it was now. It wasn't flooding like 29M. It had another issue there. Just to lose me there, but caused the stock to fall pretty hard there. Might have been I think the mine might have caved in actually there, and I think there might have been 9 from memory there, 9 sort of staff sort of caught in the mine there, which is pretty nasty there. But it has sort of gone lower there, and it has started to build here. Obviously, the silver gold's on fire here, but the thing on the chart is we actually did see some okay volume out of the low. And since then, it's actually gone sideways. So the consolidation there is actually, so it's not great actually having these miners, losing their lives and stuff there, and having that accident there can be bad for the company, which obviously has been here. But could recover here, get back to business and stuff there as well. So the share price is just sort of holding pretty tight there. So it's not the most liquid sort of stock there, but considering what's happening with metal there, it's definitely one to keep an eye on there. It doesn't look right there. ALL was number 5 on the list there. It's had a bit of a jump there. Just mention this there because obviously the update was pretty positive, Chris. And we talk about this little game changer trade too. So when you get sort of news, which is a bit of a surprise to the market, it reported a lot better. Everyone was a little concerned about gambling and casinos and just whether there's any growth there at all. So I think Aristocrat definitely the result was pretty positive, sort of hit out of the park. So that sort of gave the market some positive sort of news there. So when you sort of see that game changing news there, we've given plenty of examples in the last few years there. That's the sort of stock when it comes out there, drives on, it will sort of generally keep going there. I think the last time we mentioned there was PEXA, had that game-changing news, big jump here, but then it had like 8 days up in a row there. So Aristocrat there, it's jumped up pretty strongly today here. So it might be a bit more of a grind here, but you think this is going to go back and retest this high here, and it should, that game-changing news normally sort of just keeps driving the prices higher there. TOR was on the list there, a little small there, but a little bit of a chunky volume at the last 2 lows there. Has broken a swing high, so possible change of character. A little small for me, but definitely one to keep an eye on. GUD's had a nice bounce, nice volume there. This is all sort of big corrective here as well. So this is impulsive and then corrective on its side here. So this has got, it's got every chance of actually, the only thing it didn't sort of sit on top of this high, went sort of marginally lower. It is like a bigger, you might say this is still an ABC, and then can still go high. So this could still go back and retest the highs there, but risk reward's getting a little tricky there. You probably want to sort of see this one tighten up a little bit there, but big sideways orientated pattern there. We know that sort of sideways, because if you've run up into that high and then gone sideways, we normally break in favourable trends. So that does sort of lean in a positive manner. Thought APX was pretty interesting here, Chris. This one's, had a pretty negative year there. Obviously, is in that sort of AI sector there. So, think it, with NVIDIA and all the chip stocks doing really well, it should be hitting out of the park there, but it's just lost business and got itself into trouble there. And they had to, if I'm not mistaken, they raised some money down at the low as well. So it's a little, possibly it might sort of be getting itself together here now, and prices obviously come up a bit. But last thing on the chart there is pretty interesting here. We've had a pretty decent move up into the high. Did see a bit of a pullback there, probably a bit chunky volume than you'd like to see. It's probably, probably like to see a bit less than that. But some of the VCPs which do break up do have this sort of set up originally. The first rally is accompanied by some heavy selling. Then the next rally there, we're sort of seeing rally up in there, some good volume again. Then we should start to see volume subside a little bit. So still a little bit heavier, but at least now it's actually less than the rally volume. And then it does pull back here again, and the volume starts to drive here. We see a bit more volume on the drive, and then we see it pull back again, but now it's really struggling to go down. We see here now the volume is really starting to lighten off here. So we saw this little jump here the other day, consolidated on its side here. So got a little mini pivot here through the high of 64, and it did finish on pretty good volume there. So that's got the sort of starting marks there. Like to see this break a swing high, probably let's say around 74 cents. That'll give me a bit more confirmation there. But this starting to see a little bit of a BCP in here, Chris. Characteristics there. It's just still under the 50 though, which is not. You prefer to see it's above the 50, but just definitely one that I'm keeping a close eye on here, just because it does have that BCP characteristics there as well. We'll have some overhead supply, so we'll have some sellers there that are looking to get out into any strength. But I guess being an interesting sector there as well, we'll have sort of people sort of interested looking at that one there. COI, again, this is a bit small here, so I probably wouldn't normally trade this there, but I just noticed there's some good volume on this drive here. Pretty light on the pullback there. Some good volume again. Bit mixed around here, just a few lines that, a couple of those lines were near the lows, which was no event sign. Again, pretty light there. Starting to see some volume coming again. So possible, the whole thing's sort of kind of got a few high lows building here. Whole thing's sort of tightening up here. So I'd like to sort of see it go above this little swing high here, but is building quite nicely there. So that one probably warrants a bit more investigation as to what's happening at Comet Red. So looks interesting. Neuron Pharmaceuticals, again, this has popped out. Some good volume in the last 3 days. Now broken above a swing high, so possible change of character. So we've gone through that corrective process. So these leading names there, sometimes you see these leading names and you go through like a little ABC, you want to jump in, but then it can just keep grinding lower here. So it can use up a lot more time here. So what was the high December there? So we're literally, 5 months sort of later here. We're still in the corrective process there. So the last 2 days was the first time we've actually broken above a swing high. So that's the change of character there 2 days ago, and on some good volume as well. So yeah, this might be able to sort of get back into the positive books there. So it's been a pretty robust, pretty strong stock here so far. So again, we know these leaders continue to keep leading all the time. So good signs there for Neuro Pharmaceuticals there. Hazer, like this one here, again, just come back and retest the lows. A bit of a, I'm not a big double bottom person, but it has come back to retest the low there. What I do like is there's some decent volume signs in here, Chris, as well. So some chunky lines there. And we have just broken through swing high there. So broken through a little 1, 2 swing highs there. So again, change of character there as well. Some pretty heavy volume coming in there, which is a good sign. And just sort of building off the low there. So that's definitely one to sort of keep an eye on there. Breaking that, I guess the B wave there. 5EA was number down the end of the list there. Just one to watch there. Just the whole thing's tightening up. Still in a downtrend, lower high, lower high, lower high. But starting to see volume pick up. Starting to see price sort of consolidate there. Just need to sort of go above a B wave there first, really. That's just a watch. HLS, thought it's pretty interesting to me. Just on the weekly there, we've got sort of 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so selected a broadening sort of bottom there. But each low is only going marginally lower here as well. So there's the whole thing is tightening up here as well. So did see what I call like a little false break. And that was the third, like a little 3 thrust low as well. And we've definitely seen volume start to pick up here. A bit more volatility around here as well. So this is definitely one to sort of keep an eye on. It could build out of here. This is why I know a few fund managers are sort of saying that like Helios is pretty highly geared, so it does have a bit more risk than some other players. But if they're able to, turn, the companies that are able to sort of turn around, get things rolling a bit better here. This stock does have a lot of pent upside. I saw a few fundies saying this is sort of like it could double in value in the next year if it can get it, put its the right foot forward here. So there is an upside potential for the stock, but it does carry a bit of risk too, just because it is a bit geared here. So one to watch on there. So that's I think the last one was AA. Just noticed some chunky volume, a bit small for me, but the volume is pretty big. So that tells me here just to have a look at this one here, do some more investigation. What's happening with the stock here? Why is the volume up there? But bit erratic, bit volatile, bit small. But yeah, just want to keep on.
That's a good lot of a good mixed bag of those that have had the best weekly movement, but understanding that they are at the lower end of the cycle, and you helping us weed out the aspects that do look like good attributes that can lead to a momentum leader like the first list, or the warning bells to look for, or parts that it's not quite yet ticking the boxes for you to see that that base is really falling up. So you shared with us a lot of those insights and things that you've researched to great detail and applied that in your own trading. And I know you've had a lot to do this week, especially with the travel. Are there any quotes you want to leave us with, or you think you've broken down how you scale into and scale out of trades, and that's probably enough lesson for today?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I said this earlier in the week here, but I did watch a little bit of Ryan Pierpont last weekend there. I think he finished second or third in one of the US investing championships there. Pretty big returns there. Like, I think he might have come second or third in the year that Oliver Kell came first, and Oliver Kell was like 100%, which is just obscene. So, but Pierpont's pretty good there. Follows a lot of Dan Zhang and sort of stuff there. But talks about he looks at some of the fundamentals. Look at some of the can slam. Looks at the leaders, but I think it basically sort of says his quote was, "Only price can make you rich." So there's plenty of other things out there going on, but really the price is the number one there. So in terms of that relative strength that we're talking about there, and what all the best traders do, that's the number one thing they're looking at there. So you can talk about all these other elements. There's definitely lots of elements of the market. Some of them have some bearing, some of them don't. But price is definitely the overriding principle there, and that's the only thing that will really make its money.
Well, with that one, I think we'll lead into the weekend and say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
If you're watching this sometime after the recording, so we're recording this late May, just after Gary presented in Adelaide, we'll hopefully have the recording and a link down below of the whole content that Gary covered in Adelaide at the Australian Traders Technical Analysts Association. Also, he's talked about a whole trading setups, 0, 1, 2, 3s, false breaks and the like. We've chopped up some of the previous interviews and put those in there. So if you really just want to look back at the best of Gary, there's a whole playlist. His Tuesday reports where he's talked about Baltimore, he talked about 2 weeks ago before it really broke out. It's a playlist. And finally, if you want to catch him on Twitter, his handle is over there, or X on the left.